All right, so let's take a look at number 3. Number 3 takes us back to looking at the answers that we got from 1 and 2, and then we're going to graph those. So if you recall, the answer that we got for number 1 was an equation that described how much Jesus saved each month and how much money he started off with. So he started off with saved $25 per month, and he started off with $500. And then Jordana, the answer that we got from number 2, so just copying that equation over, is that she was saving $50 a month, but only started with $100. So what you can notice is that Jesus starts off with more money. He starts off with $500. She starts off with $100. So here's Jesus at $500. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's Jesus at $500. And then here's Jordana at $100. Here's Jordana. And kind of think of this as a little race. So obviously Jesus gets a head start because he's got 500, she's only got 100. But look at the slope. Look at the rate of change. Is that Jesus is only saving $25 a month. Jordana's saving $50 a month. So Jesus is going to go along like this. But what we think is that Jordana is going to come along like that, and eventually at some point on this graph, Jordana is going to catch up to Jesus and maybe even pass him up. So that's what we want to try to figure out. So let's graph Jesus's first. So we already got Jesus at 500, and then what we just want to do is that from there, we want to go up $25 a month. So along the bottom, each line that's month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. And then how the lines are counting on the Y is by 25. So 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, 175, 200. So he's saving $25 a month. So it'd be up 1 over 1, because we're saying up 25 for each month. So up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. And you notice that the line's going uphill. That should make sense because he's saving money. The value of his account is increasing each month. So that's why we have a line that's going uphill. And in a second here, we'll graph Jordana's, and we'll be able to then compare the steepness, because that's what slope really is. Slope's a measure of steepness. So we'll be able to compare the steepness of Jesus's line versus the steepness of Jordana's line. So Jordana starts with 100. But she's saving 50. So instead of it just being up 1, because that's just 25, it's going to be up 2, right? Because that would be 125, 150, 175, 200, right? So we're going up 2 and then over 1. Up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. And then what you notice is that her line is much steeper than his. See, we're catching up. We're getting pretty close. And eventually, what's going to happen here in a second is that we're going to entirely catch up, and then our two lines are going to intersect. Our two lines are going to cross over each other. So up 2 over 1. So it looks like we're almost there. Up 2, 1, 2 over 1. So they meet. And then look at this. She passes him up, and now has a line that's steeper than his. So where those two lines meet, or where they cross, is that point right there. Let me go ahead and... Right, so we have a line that goes like that. So Jordana catches up and passes him, and here's Jesus. So this, again, a good idea or a good visual of this idea of slope being the rate of change, of being the steepness. Right, so Jordana had a larger slope, and so that's why that line was steeper. So let's see, where did they cross? Right, so it looks like they crossed, if I go this down, so that's at 16. And then, right, so if I went down this way, and then if I go across on that line, we're at 900. So my point of intersection there would be 16, 900. Right, so that's where the two lines meet. Now we'll talk about in a second. So in a second on number 5, we'll talk about an interpretation of what that means of the 16,900. Alright, so go ahead and pause now and try number 3 on the right side. Alright, so let's check your answer for number 3 on the right side. Should have got y equals 100x plus 200 and y equals 50x plus 550. So those were your the two equations that you were using from the front side. And what you should have found is that they intersected at 7 and 900. So again, this was the equation for Luis, and then this was the equation for Cassandra. So again, that's what you got from 1 and 2 on the right, and then where they intersect would be that point right there. Right. So, and if you didn't get it, just go back, double check your lines, make sure you counted the lines correctly. Because if you miscounted somewhere, then that's what would throw it off. All right. So that finishes up number 3. Let's move on to number 4.